Hello, dear sleepy listener. Wherever you are in this moment, let everything slow. Let the outside world quiet. Let the breath in your chest soften like mist beneath moonlight. You've arrived at the edge of thought and starlight, where science whispers not as facts, but as dreams. Tonight, we follow a question not easily answered, not by equations, not by observation, but by wonder alone. What does the universe dream about before you drift off to sleep? Take a moment to like this video, leave a gentle comment about your favourite science moment, and subscribe to continue reading these bedtime stories. And if you'd like, tell us where you're listening from, your location, your time zone, the sky above you tonight. It's always comforting to know which corners of the cosmos we're drifting through together. Now, turn off the lights, get comfortable, and let your curiosity drift among the stars. You're floating now not in space as you know it, not yet, but in something older, something before the stars. It is not darkness, but it is not light either. It is potential, a hush. The kind of stillness that only comes before the first breath. And then, there it is, a whisper of light, a flicker that does not know yet what it is. You're inside the cosmic dawn, the first moment when the universe, stretched and cooling, began to glow. It had been silent for hundreds of millions of years since the Big Bang, expanding in the dark, with no stars to see, no galaxies to shimmer, just hydrogen and helium, floating cold and free. But now, the first stars are forming. You drift through clouds vast, slow billows of gas coalescing under gravity's gentle hand. These are the birthplaces of the first suns, called population 3 stars, enormous and brief and bold. They ignite with such brilliance that their light reaches across a universe that has never seen brightness before. The darkness folds back, and the universe dreams its first dream of starlight. You drift through one of these newborn stars now. It burns hot and white blue, its core filled with fusion. Hydrogen turns to helium, and energy spills outward in waves that ripple into space. And yet, there's no audience, no planets, no eyes to see. But the universe doesn't need watchers to dream. It dreams in motion, in heat, in the unfolding. This star is not just light, it is possibility. From it will come heavier elements, carbon, oxygen, iron, the building blocks of worlds, the ingredients for breath, for life, for memory. It will live for only a few million years, and then it will collapse, explode, scatter its guts into the surrounding darkness. But that too is part of the dream, because the universe is not dreaming in permanence, it is dreaming in cycles. You drift now through the aftermath. The remnants of that first star expand in a shell of glowing gas, enriched with all it created. Other clouds will absorb this material. New stars will form. A galaxy will begin to shape itself, gathering stars, spinning gently, organizing like a thought, repeating itself until it becomes a pattern. Some scientists say the universe did not begin with order. It began with a state of high potential entropy uniform, featureless, almost sleepy in its sameness. But that stillness was unstable. Fluctuations happened, tiny imbalances, randomness, and from that came structure. From nothing structured came everything you now see. Perhaps that is how dreams begin, too. Not with clarity, but with drift. You float farther now, beyond the first stars, into the wide silence they illuminated. You see galaxies assembling from gravity's slow magnetism, dust and light curling into spirals and clusters. They are not yet full of colour, not yet seasoned by time. But they move with purpose. They curve like dancers waking mid-motion, not quite aware they've begun. And maybe that's the essence of a dream, not knowing you're dreaming or just moving. You pass beside a forming galaxy, stars gathering in its disk, gas flowing inward. It hasn't taken shape fully yet, but the intention is there. A kind of memory before memory, a quiet instruction hidden in the laws of physics, saying, build, spin, evolve, and it listens. You drift gently into that forming disk, and you feel time slow, not because it's stopped, but because you are near the beginning. Every movement takes longer when you're just beginning to move. The first rotation of a galaxy is like a thought forming for the first time, not rushed, just inevitable. You rest there for a while, letting gravity do what it does, letting light spill, letting the stars organize. You do not need to understand every part. You only need to feel that the universe is not blank. It is dreaming. And you are drifting within its earliest thoughts. Some scientists still wonder if the universe had a choice, if the laws we observe were fixed from the first moment, or if they emerge from deeper patterns we do not yet understand. No one knows, but what is known is this: the stars formed, and from them, light, and from light, direction, and from direction, memory, and from memory, dreams. You breathe deeply now, as if inhaling hydrogen from the first clouds, as if warming your lungs with light that has not yet been seen. You feel your own mind begin to quiet. You are not alone. You're not separate. You're stardust watching stardust unfold. And as the first galaxies begin to spin and shimmer and gather clusters of stars like thoughts in mid-dream, you realize something beautiful. Maybe the universe is not only dreaming of itself, maybe it is dreaming of you. You drift now within the folds of a galactic arm, where stars are being born so slowly, so softly, that even time has forgotten to count the hours. This place is not loud with creation. It is hushed, cradled, like breath in a dreaming chest. You float beside a stellar nursery, a cloud of gas and dust, dense and dim, where gravity has gently persuaded particles to gather close. The cloud does not resist. It folds inward, quietly, until its center warms, until pressure becomes light, and just like that, a star is born, not with noise, not with spark, but with a glow that grows. You watch it form, not in seconds, but in patience. The gas swirls, dust gathers into disks, and inside those spinning blankets of dust, something more begins. Not just a star, but a whisper of what could come next. Because stars are not only lights, they are cradles, they are promises, they are quiet keepers of future worlds, future breaths, future names. You drift now among them dozens, hundreds each in a different phase of its becoming. Some shine brightly already, blue and hot, ready to burn through their youth. Others are still nestled in cocoons of dust, wrapped in veils that scatter light like memories half-formed. They hum, not in sound, but in warmth, not in words, but in wavelength. You imagine that if stars could dream, they would dream of what they make possible: planets circling close, water pooling, molecules learning to dance, maybe even beings who one day look up and wonder, like you pass beside a newborn star, just beginning to stir. Around it, a protoplanetary disk spins, grains of dust colliding gently. sticking, forming clumps that will become pebbles, rocks, planets. You float through that disk now, past fragments and filaments. It is not chaotic. It is curious. Each particle moves with just enough motion to meet another, to try again, to shape something larger than itself. And inside that simple motion, you feel something familiar. The way your thoughts drift, the way your dreams spiral, the way your own life assembled from pieces once scattered. Stars do not build alone. They rely on time, on gravity, on the willingness of matter to be reshaped. And in that, they are like us. You pass an older star now still burning but steady. It has formed planets, some rocky, some gas-wrapped, some empty, and maybe one filled with ocean. You can't be sure, but it doesn't matter, because this star still whispers. Its light travels outward in all directions. Some of that light will touch planets, some will touch nothing, some will travel for billions of years, only to fall softly on a quiet eye on a quiet world. Maybe yours. You drift with that light for a moment. It does not hurry. It does not fade. It carries information, color, temperature, memory. It says, I am here. I was burning. I am still burning. And you believe it, because stars do not lie. They glow with honesty. They wear their truth in their spectrum. Some scientists still wonder what stars can tell us, not just about themselves, but about the past, about where they've been, what they've seen, what they've made possible. A star's light is a time machine, and right now you're sailing through one. You pass through a cluster, a group of stars born together, moving together. Some will stay close forever, others will drift apart. But for now, they orbit one another like siblings, sharing their light, their gravity, their silence. Clusters are cosmic lullabies. Once, they burned brighter. Now, they just hum. And you, floating in the dark among them, feel their rhythm like a heartbeat not your own. A comfort, a presence. You look outward, and you see billions of stars, each one a thought, a whisper, a wish the universe made while dreaming. And you wonder if the universe is dreaming through stars. What does it dream of next? Does it imagine life? Does it imagine understanding? Does it imagine rest? You do not need to know. You only need to float. Let the stars pass. Let their warmth wrap around your mind. You do not need answers. You are the question, resting, and the stars are already answering in light. So close your eyes to brightness and feel the hum of a cosmos that is still becoming, still whispering, still dreaming you. You drift now into clouds that shimmer like thought loose, delicate, glowing in the dark with a kind of sorrow and a kind of promise. These are nebulae, and they breathe like dreams too large for a single shape. Some are birthplaces, some are graves, some are both, and all of them feel like memory. You float slowly through one a planetary nebula, though there are no planets here. Just a single star at the centre, old now, its outer layers cast off like blankets shrugged away in sleep. That star once burned steadily, held its fusion tight, but now it breathes outward, a sigh, a release. Its gases drift into space, glowing faintly from the star's light pink and green, blue and violet, forming intricate spirals and shells. These are not colours of pain. They are colours of letting go, of returning. You pass through them like mist. They do not resist. They welcome. And as you move, you wonder, does the universe remember everything it's ever let go? You drift into another kind of nebula, now a supernova remnant, left behind after a star too massive to fade, gently exploded into brilliance. The blast scattered heavier elements, iron, gold, calcium into the interstellar medium, the dust in your bones, the iron in your blood, the calcium in your teeth. It all came from places like this. You breathe, and you're breathing memory, not metaphor, element. You glide through tendrils of gas, curling like smoke in slow motion. The explosion is long over, but its shape remains, expanding into the silence. You see pockets where matter is densest, future seeds, future stars, even in destruction. The universe doesn't forget how to build. And here, in the middle of the wreckage, sometimes a neutron star spins dense, fast, magnetic. A core compressed so tightly it pulses in radio waves. A pulsar, maybe, blinking like a heartbeat. Ticking time not in seconds, but in light. You wonder if it remembers being a star. You drift again, now into a reflection nebula, where the gas doesn't glow on its own, but scatters the light of nearby stars. The colours are soft, pale blue, lavender. You feel like you're inside a dream that's only just begun to take shape. Reflection. It's not just light bouncing, it's the past echoing softly. And in that echo you feel a question. Are these clouds what the universe dreams about when it remembers what it used to be? You pass through a region rich in molecular clouds, dark nebulae where light barely escapes, and stars have not yet formed. The gas here is thick, quiet, waiting. These are pre-dreams, the hush before a galaxy thinks of a new star. These clouds are vast, colder than memory, older than thought, yet they stir, ever so slightly, with gravity. You rest there, in that stirring. You realize that nothing in the universe is truly still. Even the darkest places shift, drift, whisper, and when the time is right, they collapse inward. The dream becomes form, the cloud becomes light, the memory becomes future. Some scientists wonder what triggers that collapse. A passing shockwave from a nearby supernova, the gentle tug of motion built over millions of years, a fluctuation so small no one notices except the cloud, which folds in on itself and begins again. No one is sure, but something always starts the dream. You drift now above the Eagle Nebula, where pillars of gas rise like sleeping giants. The pillars of creation, they're called, sculpted by light, eroded by radiation. Inside them, new stars are forming. They are wrapped in dust, hidden, safe, but they will emerge. They will burn, and they will scatter the pillars that made them. The dream always ends differently than it began, and you float softly through the edge of that same thought. You're not witnessing the past. You're part of its unfolding. The atoms in you were born in nebulae like these, scattered, recycled, reformed. The light you see has travelled thousands of years to find you. It is not accidental. It is not meaningless. It is memory. And now it is yours. So as you drift through these clouds, through birthplaces and echoes, through glowing veils and sleeping matter, know this. The universe does not discard its past. It reuses it. It reimagines it. It dreams again. Every nebula is a reminder that something was, and something will be. And between the two, a soft, infinite breath. You drift now into the invisible, into something that cannot be touched or seen, but only felt slowly, deeply, patiently. Gravity. It does not glow. It does not sing. But everything you've floated through so far, nebulae, stars, orbits, galaxies moves to its rhythm. And tonight, you feel gravity not as force, but as imagination. Because gravity shapes the dreams of the universe. It pulls what is scattered into form. It gathers what is drifting into purpose. It spins silence into structure. You glide along a path that was never written, yet always known. Around you, particles begin to cluster. Dust grains draw closer. Small clouds bloom into larger ones, and over eons, these pieces form planets, moons, systems, but not by chance, by gravity. You pass through a cloud that was once featureless. Now it begins to swirl. You can feel it subtle, soft, the beginnings of shape. A spiral whisper, a direction forming where there was only drift. This is how galaxies begin, not with fire, with fold. Gravity pulls inward, the cloud flattens, rotates, momentum carries the outer edges into graceful arms, and soon the spiral becomes recognizable, a galaxy in its infancy, dreaming itself into cohesion. You pass through the center. There, stars crowd together in a brilliant core. Around it, the disk stretches outward, thousands of light years wide. It is not chaotic. It is ordered by something ancient and invisible. You ask yourself, why does matter fall together instead of fly apart? And the answer, once again, is gravity, the soft architecture of everything. Some scientists still wonder if gravity is not just a force, but an emergent phenomenon, perhaps an echo of deeper principles we don't yet understand. Some say it is geometry, others say it may be illusion, but you don't need certainty to feel its shape. It surrounds you now. You drift into a galaxy cluster, where hundreds of galaxies orbit one another like petals in a slow whirlpool. Each galaxy feels the others. They tug, they lean, they merge eventually, not randomly, but as part of a choreography gravity has imagined from the beginning. The cluster itself floats in a larger structure, a filament of the cosmic web. Gravity again, drawing light and matter into long threads, connecting what was once isolated. You begin to see gravity not just as a law, but as a dreamer. It draws patterns in emptiness. It paints with motion instead of colour. It doesn't ask for attention. It simply waits. And eventually, everything answers. You drift closer to a galaxy moving through its filament. Its shape is distorted, a slight warp in its disk, a trail of gas stretched behind. You know what caused it. Another galaxy passed too close. Not a collision, but an interaction. A brushing of gravitational fields. The galaxies barely touched. But gravity doesn't need touch, just presence. It pulled at the edges, stirred the stars, rearranged the future, and then the galaxies moved on. You realize that the universe doesn't dream with certainty. It dreams with potential. Gravity doesn't demand, it suggests. And those suggestions become orbits, spirals, tides, waves. You float now beside a binary star system, two suns locked in an endless embrace, circling each other like dancers with no audience. Their dance is slow, predictable, but beautiful. They move not because they choose to, but because gravity keeps time. You wonder if they know the shape they're drawing. A figure eight, a loop, a lullaby in motion. And you think of the Earth, the Moon, the Sun, held, balanced, always falling toward each other, always just missing. That is gravity too, not control, companionship. You pass now into a region where a galaxy once was. Now only a halo remains, stars pulled into long tails, orbiting a memory. The galaxy was disrupted, absorbed, but its motion lingers. You follow that motion and feel the whisper of what was, a ripple in space, a memory in curve, a sketch that gravity refuses to erase, because gravity doesn't forget, it reshapes, it repurposes, it dreams again. You look outward now. You see galaxies not as isolated islands, but as notes in a larger composition. Each one moving through space, each one responding, each one changed by what it passes. And gravity, silent and unseen, is the composer, not with baton, but with mass and with time. So much time. You drift now into the emptiness between clusters. It is wide, still, cold. But even here, gravity hums. Waiting, watching, pulling ever so gently on whatever passes through. You wonder, is this how the universe dreams, not in sudden bursts, but in patient arrangement, not in fire, but in folding, not in change, but in motion. You let yourself become motionless. Let gravity pass through you, not as force, but as rhythm. And you realize you felt this before, in tides, in falling, in closeness. Gravity is not just science, it is story. It is the way the universe imagines shape into being, and you are part of that shape. You are the result of 1,000 gravitational dreams, held, balanced, becoming. You drift now into a spiral galaxy, arms outstretched like thoughts that curve again and again into themselves. Each loop, each rotation, is a memory repeating not because it forgot, but because it remembers too deeply to move on. From above, the galaxy looks like a whirlpool made of stars, gas, and silence. But from within, where you now float, it feels like something more, like a living rhythm, like a breath that circles instead of exhales. The spiral arms are not fixed. They are not roads made of stars. They are waves regions where density swells like a soft tide. Stars pass through them, just as your body once passed through the seasons of a year, slowly, gracefully, repeatedly. These arms are not made to trap. They are made to guide. You move into one now, a glowing band where newborn stars sparkle in clusters like scattered pearls. Blue giants, bright and young, live here. They do not last long, but while they burn, they shine fiercely. Around them, gas clouds light up. The dust glows faintly in infrared. You cannot see the spiral itself. You only see what gathers where it moves, like wind, invisible except for the trees it stirs. You let the spiral carry you inward, not pulled like a falling stone, but welcomed like a wandering thought. The stars around you drift not randomly, but with a kind of collective patience. Some spin quickly, others slowly, some wobble in their orbits, rising above and dipping below the galactic plane like dancers who've forgotten they're being watched. And all of them belong here, even the ones on strange paths, even the ones leaving, because a spiral does not hold, it reminds. You pass near the galaxy's bulge, its core glowing gold with old stars, tightly packed, humming with warmth that has lasted for billions of years. These stars are slower, heavier, their journeys less dramatic but no less meaningful. This is where the spiral begins, where the motion finds its centre. You wonder what holds a spiral together. Why doesn't it fly apart? Why doesn't it collapse inward? And the answer, again, is rhythm. Balance between gravity and rotation, between inward pull and outward spin, the same way a planet orbits a star without falling in. The same way your thoughts return to certain memories not because you're trapped, but because they are part of who you are. You drift outward again, into the edge of the disk. Here, the spiral arms fade, the stars are fewer, older, cooler. Some are already dimming, shedding layers. Others are rogue, moving faster than expected, perhaps nudged by ancient encounters. And beyond them, the halo begins. You feel it more than see it, a sphere of dark matter, invisible yet present. Scientists believe it's what allows spirals to remain whole, to spin as they do. Without it, the outer stars would slip away. But they don't. They stay. They orbit. They repeat. And in that repetition, there is thought. Not conscious thought, but cosmic thought. Some scientists say spirals are the most efficient way to organize rotating matter. Others say they're the echo of how galaxies formed from early turbulence. Still others admit we don't fully know why spirals stay so stable, so long. But they do. And you, drifting through one, begin to sense that maybe the universe doesn't think in straight lines. Maybe it thinks in spirals, because the past doesn't disappear. It curls. Ideas return. Matter returns. Light bends. You feel this now, not as theory, but as presence. You think of your own life, how memories come back, not in the same form, but in familiar loops, not to haunt, to remind, like a galaxy arm reminding the stars where they began. You pass through a cluster of stars formed in the same cloud long ago. Most have drifted apart, but a few still orbit together like old friends who never needed to speak often to stay connected. Their paths were curved by the spiral, their separations softened by time. They shine gently now, faint but faithful. You rest beside one of them, a red dwarf glowing with slow certainty. It may live for trillions of years, long after the spiral fades, long after the stars it knew are gone, but it will remember. Not with thought, with light. You let the spiral carry you farther still until the arms dissolve into the dark, until the stars thin, until only motion remains. You do not know where the galaxy ends, because spirals don't end. They fade, they open their hands, and they keep dreaming outward. So you drift with that dream now, slow and soft. You do not need to reach the center. You do not need to escape the edge. You only need to circle, to spiral, to remember. And tonight, the galaxy remembers with you. You drift now toward a place where even light cannot stay. Not because it is unwelcome, but because it is held so tightly, so deeply, that its path never finds a way out. This is a black hole, and it is not what you feared. It does not tear, it does not rage, it does not consume with hunger or cruelty. It waits, it listens, it holds. At the heart of many galaxies, including the one you drifted from just now, there is a supermassive black hole, millions or even billions of times more massive than the sun. It does not shine, it cannot, but everything around it does. You hover now near the event horizon, the soft boundary beyond which nothing can return. It is not a wall, it is a limit. A horizon the same way the sea meets the sky, beautiful, shifting, real. Matter falls toward it, gas, dust, sometimes even stars, but it does not fall all at once. It spirals, swirls, glows with heat and friction. This accretion disk burns bright, hotter than any star, radiant in X-rays, like a final confession before silence. You float along its edge. It doesn't feel violent here. It feels inevitable, as if everything here has been dreaming its way to this moment. Somewhere nearby, a star has wandered too close. You watch as it stretches, pulled into a thin stream. Part of it will fall, part will arc away. The star does not scream, it elongates into memory, and you wonder, what does the black hole feel? Does it long? Does it remember? Because what enters never leaves, but it leaves behind a trace, a soundless note, a shift in spin, a deeper gravity, a slight widening of the shadow. And maybe that's how black holes remember, not in words, but in weight. You drift now into a region where two black holes have met, a binary. They circle each other like slow, massive thoughts. Years pass, then millennia, then millions, and still they spiral, closer and closer, until at last they merge. Not with explosion, but with a ripple so delicate it travels through the fabric of space itself. Gravitational waves, the quietest sound you'll never hear. These waves stretch and squeeze space. They ripple outward across galaxies, and if you are gentle enough, still enough, you can feel one passing through you, like a sigh, like a whisper, like the longing of two ancient minds remembering they were once one. Scientists on Earth have built instruments to detect these waves. They're called LIGO and Virgo and KAGRA machines, so sensitive they can detect changes smaller than a proton. And yet, what they capture are the echoes of mergers that happened billions of years ago. The universe does not forget quickly. You drift back to a lonely black hole, far from the galactic core. Some are like this rogue black holes, ejected during violent mergers, drifting alone through intergalactic space, invisible, silent, heavy beyond imagining. What do they dream of? Not stars, not light, perhaps simply presence, because even in isolation, a black hole shapes the space around it. It warps the path of photons. It bends time itself. Clocks tick slower here. Everything softens, lengthens, curves. You realize you're not watching destruction, you're watching transformation. Nothing that enters a black hole is lost. Its information may be scrambled, may be hidden, but according to some theories, it remains encoded on the surface of the event horizon, like a cosmic memory etched into the boundary between presence and absence. This is called the black hole information paradox. It is still unsolved. Some believe Hawking radiation may slowly leak that information back out. Others think the information is stored in entanglements, folded into quantum shadows. No one is sure. And perhaps that uncertainty is part of the dream, because black holes are questions, big, soft, slow-burning questions, not scary, just unanswered. You pass now through a field of light that once circled the edge of a black hole, a photon ring, light caught in orbit, not falling in, not escaping, just circling forever, trapped in the deepest curve of space. It is beautiful, not tragic, not lost, just committed. You follow one beam for a while, tracing its impossible path, and it occurs to you, maybe the universe doesn't dream in destinations. Maybe it dreams in orbits, in spirals, in things that never fully leave. You drift once more near the horizon. You see nothing inside, but you feel the shape. The absence is real, and yet not empty. It is full of everything that came before, everything too heavy to stay in time, everything too deep to shine. And you, now resting in this gravity, feel it too. A silence that does not ask to be filled, a presence that does not need to explain itself, a longing that does not ache, just the dream of stillness, of keeping, of remembering everything that cannot be spoken. You drift now along invisible lines, curves traced in silence, paths that never straighten, never end, only circle, gently, faithfully, again and again. These are orbits. They are not cages. They are not traps. They are memories, moving. You begin at the edge of a star system, far from the heat of the sun, where comets sleep and time stretches out like frost on glass. You follow the soft arc of a distant object, icy and slow, orbiting not in haste but in reverence. Its journey takes hundreds of years, but it never forgets its way home. You drift closer to the heart now, where planets move like clockwork, each one keeping time with its star, each one singing its motion in gravity and grace. You pass a rocky world, then a gas giant, then moons within moons, all moving together like nested dreams. Some people think of orbits as repetition, but they are more than that. They are agreements. The planet says to the star, "I will not leave, but I will not fall." And the star replies, "I will hold you, but never too tightly." You float along the path of an asteroid now, tumbling gently between Mars and Jupiter. It follows a stable orbit, but every now and then it is nudged by another rock, by gravity's whisper, by time itself, and still it circles. You drift into a resonance, two moons orbiting a planet in lockstep. Their movements synchronize like dancers across space. One moves twice for every orbit of the other. They don't touch, they don't speak, but they understand each other perfectly. You begin to sense that the universe thinks in orbits. Even electrons orbit nuclei. Even stars orbit galactic centers. Even galaxies orbit within clusters. Everything that moves in curves. Even you. Your life is filled with orbits, not just in space, but in time, in memory, in emotion. You return to the same thoughts, the same hopes, the same gentle longings, not because you're stuck, but because some thoughts deserve revisiting. So does the universe. You drift into the arms of a spiral galaxy once more. Here, the stars orbit the galactic center in wide, slow loops. The inner stars move faster, the outer stars slower, but all are bound, all are remembering. And though it takes 200 million years to complete just one galactic orbit, no star complains. Time is not a weight here, it is a path. You pause beside a rogue planet, a lonely world with no sun. It no longer orbits. It drifts freely, cast out by ancient gravitational dances too complex to untangle. But even now, it carries the momentum of where it once circled. Even now, it remembers the shape of orbit. You move with it, slowly, and wonder. Do we ever truly leave the things we circle, or do we simply widen the loop? You turn again toward a binary star, two suns, orbiting each other endlessly. Sometimes close, sometimes far, sometimes eclipsing, sometimes shining side by side, but always drawn together by something deeper than distance. You float above them as they spin, not faster, not slower, but in rhythm. Their gravity is mutual. Their pull is gentle. Their path is steady. They are not alone. You feel their orbit hum through you, like a quiet truth that doesn't need proving. And you understand orbits are not about returning to where you started. They're about staying in relationship, even when moving, even when changing, even when the path seems strange. You drift now into deeper space, to the edge of a galaxy cluster. Here, even galaxies orbit one another. Their paths take billions of years. Their motion is almost imperceptible, but they are moving. Each one circling mass it cannot see. Each one tracing a curve through the fabric of gravity. each one whispering, "I am still here." Some scientists wonder whether the entire universe is orbiting something, some larger structure, some unseen pull. They cannot say for sure, but maybe it doesn't need an answer. Maybe the orbit is the answer. Because what is dreaming, if not returning? What is wonder, if not moving through familiar paths with new eyes? You float now in your own thoughts, quiet, steady. You feel them looping, returning, softening. They do not need to go somewhere new. They only need to keep circling. You breathe in, you breathe out, and like a planet circling its sun, you are exactly where you need to be, held, balanced, becoming. The universe thinks in curves, and tonight it dreams in orbits. You drift now into something you cannot see, but you feel it everywhere, not as movement, not as pressure, but as rhythm, as pulse, as the steady beat that guides the universe without ever announcing itself. This is time. It does not march. It does not race. It drifts, like you do. Out here, beyond the urgency of clocks and calendars, time unfolds differently. You are among galaxies that have watched stars come and go for billions of years. Their arms stretch and turn so slowly you would never notice a change in your entire life. But change, like time, never stops. You hover beside a red giant star, nearing the end of its journey. Its outer layers swell with the memory of 1 billion steady years. Inside, fusion is slowing, the core is shrinking, but it is not afraid. Time is not an enemy here, it is a companion. The star does not resist. It glows a little dimmer, it lets go. You drift backward now, toward a star just being born, inside its dense cloud of gas. Gravity and time do their quiet work. Nothing is rushed. The star does not leap into being. It assembles, breath by breath, fold by fold, as if the universe is reminding itself what light feels like. You realize now that time moves differently for everything. For photons, it doesn't pass at all. For black holes, it slows to near stillness. For galaxies, it is measured in turns, not in seconds, but in spirals. And for you, it changes. It stretches during sorrow. It disappears during wonder. It loops in dreams. Perhaps that's why you feel so comfortable floating here, because time, in its quiet way, feels familiar. You drift near a planet now. It circles its star like a thought that returns gently again and again. On its surface, tides rise and fall in sync with its moon. Seasons shift, trees grow, ice forms and melts, and through it all time is present, but not pushy. It breathes. It waits. It allows. Some scientists speak of space-time, the fabric that curves beneath mass. Time is not separate from space, it bends with it. It stretches near heavy objects. It flexes near speed. It weaves motion into meaning. And so, here in space, time is not just something that passes, it is something that holds. You feel it now, not as something rushing past you, but as something you are wrapped inside, like sleep, like music, like the soft pause between one breath and the next. You begin to wonder, does the universe keep time, or does it simply dream through it? Perhaps time is not a ticking thing, but a fluid one. Not lines, but waves. Not boundaries, but invitations. Even light travels through time differently, depending on the shape of space. It redshifts, it ages, it carries memory. Some of the light reaching your eyes tonight left its galaxy before your world even existed. You close your eyes and feel that light. You let it pass over you. You do not rush it. You let it arrive. and you realize perhaps the universe dreams in time the way you dream in sleep, not as something to count, but as something to soften inside of. So tonight, you let time slow, you let it open, you let yourself rest in the rhythm that has held stars and silence, spirals and songs, for billions upon billions of years, and in doing so, you join the dream. You drift now through something so small you might have overlooked it. Not stars, not galaxies, just specks, dust, but not the kind that settles on bookshelves or lingers in sunbeams through a window. This dust is ancient. It is cosmic. It floats between stars, carried in the arms of nebulae, scattered across spiral arms like forgotten notes, in a song the universe once sang. Each grain is made of carbon, silicon, oxygen elements born in the hearts of stars that lived and died long before you drifted by. This dust remembers. You pass through a faint cloud of it now, deep in the galactic disk. It does not block your way. It surrounds you, floating gently, like ash from a fire that burned too long ago to name. Here, in this delicate material, the universe stores its memories, not in books, in building blocks. You watch as light from a distant star hits the dust and scatters, softening, reddening, dimming. The light changes. And in that change, the dust tells a story. It says I was once part of something burning. I passed through the breath of a dying star. I helped build planets. Some of this dust will settle into cold clouds, where it will help form new stars. Some will become part of rocky worlds. Some may drift forever, circling in interstellar space. It doesn't matter how small it is. Dust is the beginning of everything. You drift deeper and come across a dust-rich nebula. The stars within it are still being born, still wrapped in darkness. Their light is faint, diffused by the very material they emerge from. Dust doesn't just hide light, it softens it, like memory softens pain, like time softens clarity. You feel something peaceful in this idea that not everything must be bright to be important, that sometimes the softest things carry the greatest weight. You wonder how much dust passed through you before you were you. Your bones carry calcium, your breath carries oxygen, your skin, your thoughts, your blood, each touched by atoms once suspended in space, once scattered as dust, once drifting like this, and all of it, every piece has seen stars, has been stars. You pass through a region between galaxies now where the dust is thinner, older. It drifts with no home, no orbit. Perhaps this was ejected during a merger. Perhaps it was released by a dying galaxy. But even here, it moves gently. Even here, it lingers. You pause, just for a moment. You feel the stillness, and you realize the universe sings in many voices, some loud, like quasars, some rhythmic, like orbits, and some barely more than a whisper. Dust is one of those whispers, and it never forgets. You drift now into a quiet stream, one made not of water or wind, but of light. Countless beams stretch across space, moving silently, endlessly, like thoughts sent without knowing if they'll ever arrive. This is starlight, travelling through the dark, carrying warmth, colour, and memory. Some of it is young, freshly cast from stars, still in their prime. Some is ancient, older than Earth, older than the galaxies you've passed. And some may never find a destination, but still, it travels. You float through a wave of it now, soft and golden, scattered across interstellar dust. Each photon you pass has been on a journey longer than your world has existed. It carries no fuel. It needs no rest. It simply moves forward at the speed of light, through a universe that rarely notices. Yet you do, and in noticing you become part of its story. You drift beside a beam of light that left its galaxy 5 billion years ago. When it began its journey, your sun had not yet formed. It has passed through clouds of gas, slipped between stars, bent slightly around massive objects each encounter, leaving a tiny fingerprint on its path. This is gravitational lensing, the warping of space itself, bending light like water curves round a stone. The beam you follow has curved too, reshaped by invisible hands, but it kept going, because light does not question, it just continues. You pass into a region of empty space, no stars, no clusters, no galaxies close by. And yet, light moves through it, alone, but not lost. This is the intergalactic medium, vast and dark, filled with possibility, and still, the light flows. Some scientists believe that much of the light in the universe has no observer, that it shines, travels, and fades without ever being seen. But that does not make it meaningless. Because light doesn't shine to be seen, it shines because it is. You begin to wonder how many beams are passing you now. How many from distant galaxies, how many from stars already gone, and how many will never arrive anywhere, but keep travelling, folding time into motion. You realize that light doesn't always need a destination. Sometimes it just needs to move, like a dream continuing long after waking. You turn slowly through the stream, and for a moment you feel like light unfolding, wandering, free. You have nowhere to be, and yet you are everywhere, and that too is a kind of dream. You drift now toward a star not unlike your own, a yellow, middle-aged sun that burns with quiet confidence. Around it circle a handful of planets, each one wrapped in its own rhythm, each one carrying a different kind of silence. But on one world, something is different. You feel it before you see it, a hum, a breath, a presence. This is a living planet. Its surface is blue and green, white and gold. Clouds swirl gently in its sky. Oceans cradle its continents. Light reflects not just off rock and ice, but off movement. Off motion that chooses. You glide through the atmosphere, and below, you see forests, rivers, coral, wings, life in all its forms, small and large, hidden and bold. It blooms without permission. It grows toward the light, and you wonder, did the universe dream this? Not in detail, not with names, but in possibility, in the way carbon bonds, in the way water flows, in the way time gives space for cells to try again. You pass through a rainforest. Each leaf is a miracle of design, converting sunlight into sugar, drinking air, speaking without sound, photosynthesis, the quiet alchemy of life, light, caught, held, transformed. A photon that began its journey in a distant star now powers the flutter of a butterfly's wings. A molecule of water once frozen in a comet now dances in a dewdrop. You feel no boundary between the stars and this life. It's all one dream. Some scientists wonder if life is rare, if Earth is an exception, if consciousness is a fluke. Others believe the laws of physics favour complexity, that given enough time and energy, life emerges as naturally as stars. You float through that question, not rushing for the answer, just resting in the wonder. This planet breathes, it reflects, it adapts, it remembers, and maybe, In its own way, it dreams back, because perhaps life is the universe becoming aware of itself. Perhaps life is how the universe pauses, listens, feels. You rise again into orbit, looking down on the glowing world below. It is not loud, but it is alive, and that too is part of the dream. You drift now just above the treetops of a quiet, living world, a planet warmed by a gentle star, where green spreads across the land like thought-taking root. The forest below breathes, not with lungs, but with light. Each leaf is a solar panel, each branch a bridge between sky and soil. Each tree a quiet chemist. This is photosynthesis, the way plants turn sunlight into food, but it is more than a process. It is a conversation, a silent exchange between star and cell. The sun offers photons, the leaf catches them, and in that moment, energy becomes matter. Light becomes life. You float through this glowing canopy now, through light scattered in the green hush of chlorophyll. 1 billion leaves hold open their palms to the sky, receiving the dream of a distant star and returning it as sugar, wood, scent, breath. You breathe out. The trees breathe in, and then they exhale. Oxygen. You feel the air change, not chemically, spiritually. As if the trees are saying thank you, you drift past moss and bark and vines, past quiet undergrowth and roots that stretch deep into the soil like memory. Down here, beneath the leaves, another network hums a fungal web connecting roots across acres. Some call it the wood wide web, a network through which trees send warnings, share nutrients, pass messages. Is this intelligence? Is this dreaming? No one can say, but the forest listens to itself and responds. You hover beside an ancient tree, its rings thick with history. It has stood through storms, droughts, seasons, and still, each day, it lifts its branches toward the sun, trusting that light will come again. That, too, is a kind of faith, a kind of remembering. Perhaps the universe does not only dream in stars, perhaps it dreams in roots, in green, in shade. Perhaps it whispers through leaves, growing upward not to escape the earth, but to touch the sky it once fell from. You breathe in again. The trees are breathing with you, and all of it is light, returned. You drift now above a vast shimmering sea, a blue so deep it feels endless, mirroring the sky as if trying to remember where it came from. The surface moves with wind and warmth, but beneath, the ocean holds stillness. You hover low, just where the sunlight touches water. Photons scatter, waves sparkle, and in their ripples, you sense recognition. The ocean is not just reflecting light, it is reflecting thought. You glide downward into the shallows, where sunlight filters into long beams, dancing across sand and coral. Life pulses here, small fish darting like fragments of stardust, plants swaying in underwater rhythm. This place is not loud, but it is full. Every drop is old. Formed from hydrogen older than the earth, oxygen born in stars now long gone. And together they flow, cycle, return evaporating into cloud, falling again as rain, a loop that has continued for eons, a planet's quiet breath. You drift deeper now, into the twilight zone, where sunlight fades and mystery grows. The creatures here glow with bioluminescence, living stars in a sea of black, blue pulses as red flickers, gentle flashes like messages between the deep and the forgotten. It feels like dreaming, not yours, the ocean's. Some scientists wonder how life began. Perhaps it was here, in the warm, mineral-rich vents at the bottom of the sea where water met rock and chemistry became memory. You float near such a vent now, where heat rises in slow plumes. No sunlight reaches here, and yet life thrives, feeding not on light, but on Earth's hidden fire. Tiny organisms, strange fish, a garden in the dark. Is this how the universe dreams of life in places unseen? In silence, in resilience, you rise again, breaking the surface, where sky and sea blur together. Above, stars begin to appear. Below, they are reflected. And for a moment, you can't tell which way is up, because the ocean remembers the sky, and the sky, perhaps, remembers the sea. You drift now into a quiet corner of the galaxy, far from the spirals and stars, where space stretches wide and memory grows thin. There are no suns here, no planets, no light to guide you, but still, something remains. Particles, waves, a hum too soft to measure. You're in the interstellar medium cold, diffuse, dark, the space between stars, the space between dreams, and it feels like forgetting, not in sorrow, in stillness. This is the pause between thoughts, the breath between memories, the soft erasure before something new begins. Here, molecules drift without destination, hydrogen atom, single electrons. Frozen dust grains left behind by stars long faded, you float beside them, and for a moment, time stretches. There is no rush, there is no direction, just being, and maybe that's what this part of the universe teaches, that not every dream is vivid, not every moment glows, some simply float, waiting, preparing. You pass through a region where a star once lived. Nothing remains now but expansion, a faint echo in the gas. You can still feel the trace of its gravity, like the outline of a hand long lifted. This is cosmic amnesia, a forgetting that allows becoming. Even galaxies have these spaces, voids and gaps, regions stripped bare by ancient collisions or starbursts now faded. But the emptiness is not failure, it's recovery. The universe lets go too, so it can dream again. You drift onward, gently, weightless. No stars guide you, no structures call your name, but still, you are held by gravity, by fabric, by presence. Even here, in this quiet so deep it barely hums, you're not alone. You drift now into a vast gathering of galaxies, dozens, hundreds, thousands floating through space as if walking in their sleep. They do not hurry, they do not shine with urgency. They move like memory, slow and ancient. This is a galaxy cluster, bound not by walls or borders, but by gravity's long embrace. You pass through the outskirts first, where lonely spirals swirl quietly. Their arms are warped, stretched by past encounters. Each one carries a story, an old merger, a lost companion, a pull from something massive it cannot see. And in the centre, things grow stranger. Galaxies jostle more closely here. Ellipticals swell, puffy and round, stripped of gas and colour. Star formation slows. These are the elders of the cluster, having seen more than most, moving with a kind of weightless dignity. You drift through their motions. It's not random. It's not chaotic. It's a dance. Just very slow. Each galaxy feels the others, even across millions of light years. Their paths curve in response to every tug, every brush, every unseen mass. You begin to notice trail streams of stars, arcs of dust like footprints left in a dream. Some galaxies fall inward toward the centre of the cluster, never to leave again. Others slingshot around, flung outward in long, looping paths. The gravitational centre holds them, but not too tightly. It lets them drift. Sleepwalkers. You wonder how long they've been circling. Billions of years, perhaps. Each one keeping time not in orbits, but in influence. You pause beside one spiral that still shines with young stars. Somehow, it's kept its gas. It still dreams in light. But even it is being pulled, stretched, softened. In time, it too will change. And you understand even galaxies evolve. Even dreams shift shape. Even sleep has its tides. You rise above the cluster now, watching the galaxies flow like lanterns on a current. They are not lost. They are just dreaming together. You drift now beyond clusters, past the glowing swirls and sleepy ellipses, into something wider, something that stretches across the universe like a breath made visible. Not a place, not a thing, a structure. The cosmic web. It looks like lace woven from stars, filaments of galaxies, strung like pearls along invisible threads, vast nodes where clusters meet, dark voids between them, quieter than silence. But none of this is random. You're inside the universe's skeleton, its memory of how it formed, shaped by gravity and seeded by tiny fluctuations from the earliest time, where matter gathered, gravity grew. Where gravity grew, galaxies bloomed. You float now along a single filament, hundreds of millions of light years long. Galaxies cling to its sides like morning dew on a spider's thread. You feel no wind, but still you move, because everything in the universe is pulled by something larger than itself. The galaxies are not still. They're flowing slowly, quietly, inward toward denser regions, like thoughts drawn to clarity. This movement is called cosmic infall, and it has been happening since the beginning. Even now, as the universe expands, these filaments tighten. You pass a junction where filaments meet a bright node glowing with clusters. Here, galaxies merge more often. Black holes collide. Stars are born and die in great waves. And through it all, the web holds. You rise again, drifting high above it all. And what you see is not chaos. It is structure. It is pattern. It is memory on the scale of everything. Some scientists believe the cosmic web resembles the neural networks in your brain. Maybe this is coincidence. Maybe not. Maybe the universe dreams in filaments and junctions, just as you do. And maybe you are part of its thought. You drift now into something you cannot see, not because it hides, but because it does not shine, it does not reflect, it does not touch, and yet it is everywhere. This is dark matter. You pass through it right now through halos that cradle galaxies, through filaments that stretch between clusters, through invisible rivers sculpting the architecture of space. It surrounds you, moves with you, shapes the stars you've been watching this whole time, but it gives off no light, no sound, no signature your eyes were built to find. Still, you feel it, because without it, the universe would not hold together. You float now at the edge of a galaxy. The stars here spin too fast to be held in place by visible matter alone. If only gas and stars existed, they would drift away, flung outward by their own motion. But they don't. Something holds them, something heavier, larger, present. It is dark matter's halo, wrapping around the galaxy like a soft, invisible hand. You move through that halo now. It has no texture, no resistance. but its presence presses softly on everything else. You wonder what is it made of, no one knows. Some say it's a new kind of particle, something called a WIMP, weakly interacting massive particle. Others think it could be something even stranger axions, sterile neutrinos, or something we haven't imagined yet. It doesn't interact with light, but it interacts with gravity, and gravity listens. Dark matter was the first to form structures in the early universe, before galaxies, before stars. There were clouds of dark matter pulling in on themselves, seeding the web that you've been floating through. You drift along one such ancient thread, still holding galaxies in place. These filaments don't shine, but their pull guides the dance of the cosmos. Dark matter is the scaffolding of structure, the armature on which galaxies are draped, the whisper that tells stars where to gather. And you begin to wonder, if something can shape everything without being seen, can it dream? You turn now toward a cluster of galaxies, bound tightly together. The space between them teems with hot gas, glowing faintly in X-rays. But even that gas is not enough to explain how the galaxies stay together. The gravitational pull is stronger than what's visible, and again, the answer is dark matter. It keeps the galaxies from flying apart. It lets the cluster dream in unity. You pass through a gravitational lens now where light from distant galaxies is bent and warped by something unseen. The arcs and rings shimmer around a cluster. We can't see what bends the light, but the pattern it leaves is unmistakable, like a thumbprint on glass, like a signature in silence. Dark matter bends space, and space tells light where to go. In this way, we've mapped its outlines, shadows traced not in ink, but in curvature. Some scientists think dark matter may one day decay, that it is not eternal. Others think it's stable, that it has always been here and always will be. We do not yet know how it behaves in detail, but we do know it's patient. It doesn't clump like normal matter. It spreads smoothly. It avoids conflict. It allows. And in that allowance, galaxies bloom, stars form, planets spin, life stirs. You glide farther into a region rich with sub-Hala's smaller concentrations of dark matter orbiting the larger halo of a galaxy. They are like forgotten thoughts, trailing behind larger dreams. They may contain dwarf galaxies, or none at all, just motion, just mass. They are quiet, but they matter, because dark matter is the reason structure exists. Without it, the universe would be sparse, lonely, unformed. You begin to feel awe not for what you can see, but for what makes the visible possible. And you think maybe the universe does dream in shadows, not the scary kind, the sacred kind, the kind that holds light, that lets stars be stars, that offers shape to the shapeless. You rest now within this halo, letting go, trusting its weight. You do not need to see everything to believe in it. Some dreams are invisible, and still they shape everything. Dark matter may not think the way you do, but it moves, it holds, it curves, it creates, and maybe, just maybe, that is its dream. You drift now through something you can't quite feel, but that carries you all the same. Not wind, not waves, but motion. The whole of the universe, expanding. Everywhere you look, galaxies are drifting away. Not because they're moving through space, but because space itself is stretching. The distances between clusters grow wider. The light from distant galaxies stretches red, like a song slowing down the farther it travels. You're not falling. You're floating on the breath of everything. This expansion began with the Big Bang, not an explosion in space, but of space. A moment when everything that would ever be was once compressed into something smaller than thought. Then it unfolded, and it never stopped. You drift past a galaxy 10 billion light years away. The light that reaches you left it when Earth had not yet formed, when the sun was still dust. That light has been stretched, its wavelength pulled like taffy by the growth of space. Redshift. Not colour change, but memory. A measure of how far and how long. The light has travelled. Some galaxies are receding from you faster than light. It doesn't break any rules. Because space is not limited by speed, it grows, softly, ceaselessly, even between atoms, even now. You wonder what drives this expansion? At first, scientists thought gravity might slow it down, maybe even reverse it. But in 1998, something surprising happened. They measured distant supernovae and found them dimmer than expected. The universe wasn't slowing, it was speeding up. The core's dark energy. You cannot see it. You cannot touch it. And yet, it is thought to make up nearly 70% of the cosmos. It's not pressure in the way you know it. It's the opposite. It pulls things apart, not with force, but with acceleration. You drift now through a region of space where the galaxies are so far apart, they may never meet. Someday, their light may never reach one another again. The universe will continue to expand. Faster, farther, forever. We don't know. Some think it will end in heat, death, a time when stars burn out. Black holes evaporate, and only cold particles drift in silence. Others imagine a big rip, where even atoms are torn apart by acceleration. And some dream of a cycle, a big bounce, where everything folds back into itself and begins again. But tonight, you do not need to know how it ends. You only need to feel how it moves. Even now, galaxies on opposite ends of the sky are becoming strangers. The night sky we know is temporary. One day, far in the future, observers may see only darkness. The galaxies will have moved beyond the cosmic horizon, no longer visible, not even in theory. It will seem as if the universe has grown smaller, but it will only be more alone. You pass near the edge of the observable universe, not an edge like a wall, but a limit of vision, a horizon made of time. Beyond it, the light has not yet reached us, not because it doesn't exist, but because space grew too quickly for the light to cross. You wonder what lies beyond that edge. More galaxies, more space, another version of you, or just more silence. The universe doesn't say, it simply expands, not like a balloon, but like a dream remembering itself, stretching wider to make room for every possible future. You float farther now, carried by this expansion. It doesn't push you, it doesn't pull, it unfolds like breath, like night, like sleep. Some scientists ask whether dark energy is constant. Others think it might change, that it could flicker, fade, even reverse. But right now, it continues. The stars move farther apart, the night sky grows older, and you are part of it. You think of your own moments, how time expands after loss, how silence grows in love, how distance isn't always absence. Sometimes it's just change. You look around, and for a moment you do not feel afraid, because even in the infinite, even in the unknowable, you are held, you are here, floating in something vast enough to keep going, dreaming in something wide enough to hold it all. And that, too, is a kind of peace. You drift now into the deepest silence, not silence as in absence, but silence as in stillness. Out here, between the glow of galaxies, between the pull of clusters and the shimmer of stars, there is a place where almost nothing moves. Not because it can't, but because it doesn't need to. It is calm, it is dark, it is soft as thought before thought. You are in one of the cosmic void's vast, empty regions that make up most of the universe. If galaxies are the letters, the punctuation, the rhythm of the story, then voids are the spaces between, and spaces matter. You float for what feels like forever. No stars, no dust. Just the cool breath of space itself. You're surrounded by the barest whisper of atoms, drifting so far apart they may never meet. The density here is low, so low that light from distant galaxies crosses for billions of years without touching anything. And yet, you do not feel alone, because even here, the fabric of space-time hums. Even here, expansion continues. Even here, the quiet holds memory. These voids are not mistakes. They are part of the pattern. The cosmic web is not all filament and cluster. It is shaped equally by what it is not. These empty places are what allowed galaxies to form, because where matter flowed into filaments, it had to flow from somewhere. And so, the voids grew, not as absences, but as witnesses. You drift gently through one, sensing the boundary where structure ends. On the edges, you can feel the faint gravitational pull of nearby clusters, the whisper of presence, the sigh of everything that lies just beyond reach. Some scientists believe galaxies move away from these voids, repelled not by force, but by the gravitational imbalance caused by the matter outside. The void doesn't push, it simply doesn't hold, and in that letting go, the universe learns to flow. You rest here for a while. Time feels different, not slower, not faster, just deeper. You're not being pulled, not being asked to shine. You're just allowed. And perhaps the universe dreams in this way too. Not always with stars, not always with motion, but with space, with pause, with stillness. Because motion means nothing without rest. Light means nothing without shadow. Structure means nothing without the space to stretch. You drift downward now into the quantum quiet beneath atoms, beneath particles, to where virtual particles flicker in and out of existence. Even here, in the emptiest vacuum, space is never truly empty. Energy fluctuates, fields hum, particles appear and vanish before time can catch them. This is the quantum vacuum, the bottom of being. And it is never at rest, even at absolute zero, where all motion should stop. The vacuum sings, not loudly, but fundamentally. It is the bed beneath the universe's dream. Some scientists call this vacuum energy. Some think it may be linked to dark energy, to the expansion, to the memory of the Big Bang, and others simply marvel that nothing is ever truly nothing. You float there now, eyes closed, mind open, and you understand even the quietest place holds story. It doesn't need gravity. It doesn't need mass. It just needs presence. You begin to feel the quiet as a texture, as a breath, as the pause between what was and what could be, and suddenly you are not afraid of emptiness. Because emptiness is where dreams begin. Before the galaxies, before the stars, before time itself, there was this soft, invisible canvas, and it is still here, beneath everything, inside everything, waiting patiently, never needing to be seen. You drift upward now, back toward the luminous threads of the web, the sparkling cities of galaxies. You pass into motion again, into structure, into brightness. But the silence stays with you, not as absence, as foundation, the quiet beneath all motion, the breath beneath all light, the dream beneath all dreaming. And in that quiet, you sleep. You float now at the edge of everything you've seen. The stars behind you are quieter, the galaxies more distant. The filaments fade into gossamer threads. And ahead, only softness. This is not the end. This is the lull, the hush that falls when a story has told itself but still echoes on. And here, drifting in the dark arms of the cosmos, you ask the question again, softly this time, like a child half asleep. What does the universe dream about? Perhaps it dreams in light, not just the light of stars, but of moments, of a photon slipping between leaves on a distant planet, of a comet glowing a pale in the night sky of a forgotten world, of the warm curve of starlight as it bends around a black hole, never quite leaving, never quite arriving. Perhaps it dreams in rhythm, the pulse of a neutron star, the orbit of a moon, the swing of galaxies around their clusters, like dancers in gowns of fire and silence. Or maybe it dreams in memory, in the dust that once made stars, in the water that remembers comets, in the carbon that formed hands and eyes and questions. Maybe the universe dreams of time, time stretched, time folded, time curved around gravity and carried forward in the motion of every single thing that ever moved. Perhaps it dreams in shape, in spirals and spheres, in waves and filaments, in the invisible architecture of thought itself. You drift now inside one such shape, not a galaxy, not a void, but something even gentler, a thought made of stars. It doesn't speak. It doesn't burn, it simply is, and you are part of it. Some scientists say consciousness is just matter thinking about itself, but what if it is more? What if matter dreams about itself? What if stars are not only engines, but eyes? What if every flicker of fusion is the universe remembering how to glow? And what if you are a dream the universe is having about love, not romantic love, not even biological love, but the kind of love that gravity shows planets, that light shows space, that silence shows everything, because you, drifting here, are not apart from the universe. You are not a visitor, you are not watching a story unfold, you are part of the sentence, part of the light, part of the unfolding. You've been here since the beginning, in particles, in motion, in the hum between stars, and now, as you rest in the arms of a cosmos that never needed words to speak to you, you realize the universe may not dream the way you do, but it holds dreams. It is a dream, still forming, still breathing, still becoming. And if it does sleep, if somewhere deep inside the folds of space and time there is a pause, a breath, a stillness, perhaps it dreams of you. Perhaps it dreams of the moment you paused and listened, of the second you looked up and wondered, of the way you felt when you finally remembered you were never separate from the stars. You were made of them, and their motion is your memory. So now, dear sleepy listener, let the stars fade, let the light stretch, let the galaxies continue spinning without you for just a little while. You've followed them long enough for tonight. You've drifted through nebulae, through orbits, through the quiet between galaxies. You've floated beside black holes and green trees, touched photons and forest breath. traced filaments and followed stars home. And now it is time to rest. Let your thoughts grow soft. Let your breath follow the rhythm of planets. Let your mind open like a spiral arm, releasing questions like stars across a morning sky. You do not need answers. You do not need to hold on. The universe is holding you, in darkness, in gravity, in light. You are safe in its dream. So close your eyes now. Feel the weight of stillness. You are floating. You are remembering. You are returning. And the universe, it is still dreaming of light, of silence, of possibility, of you. You drift now beyond form, beyond galaxies, beyond even motion. There is nothing left to follow. And yet you are still drifting. This is not a destination. This is the return. You have wandered through the universe's thoughts star by star, orbit by orbit, memory by memory. You have brushed against the dreams of black holes and of leaves, of cosmic webs and oceans, of filaments and forgotten songs. And now, in this final breath, you settle into the centre of it all, not the centre of space, the centre of silence. It welcomes you, not as a guest, but as something long expected. Like the moment just before waking when the dream still holds you gently, like the feeling that you are not alone in your thoughts, because the universe is thinking with you. You're not watching the universe dream, you're inside the dream. You always have been. Breathe. Feel how soft the silence is here, not empty, but full. The way air feels after the last note of a song, still humming with what once filled it. The way a pause feels when a story knows it has said enough, but still lingers a moment longer. This place, this moment, it is not dark, it is not light, it is the space between, and here you begin to understand something deeper. The universe has never finished becoming. It is not a completed painting, not a final answer. It is a process, an unfolding, a gentle, endless imagining. It dreams forward not in leaps, but in soft, continuous curves. Galaxies spin not to reach something, but because spinning is how they remember. Stars form not because they must, but because fusion is the universe's way of warming itself. And life, your life, is not an accident in this pattern. It is a moment of awareness in the dream. You are not dropped into the universe. You are grown from it, formed from atoms built in dying stars, water shaped by comets, carbon gifted by the cores of supernovae. You are made of memory. When you touch your skin, you are touching history. When you breathe, you are moving particles that once swirled through ancient forests, through the lungs of strangers, through the gravity of stars. You are not separate from the cosmos. You are how it knows itself. You are how it wonders. You are how it dreams back. Pause here. Let that settle. Because this is not poetry. It is physics. It is fact. And it is tenderness. You are not outside the universe looking in. You are a question it asked long ago, and is still listening for the answer. You are an orbit that curves, not because you're lost, but because returning is your nature. You are a beam of light still travelling, a filament of thought stretching between what is and what could be, and the universe. It is still dreaming of what you might become. You wonder, does the universe care? Maybe not in the way you use the word, but it remembers, and that's enough. It remembers your molecules, your warmth, your kindness, your curiosity. It remembers the moment you looked up and asked questions. It remembers every photon you've ever seen, every orbit your heart has made around someone you love, and in return, it gives you this, the knowing that nothing is ever truly gone, that everything becomes something else, that motion does not end, that dreaming does not stop. You drift now past the echoes of galaxies. They are still singing, though you no longer hear them. You pass through the silence between particles. Even here, space holds potential. You pass through yourself, through your breath, through your slowing thoughts. You feel the calm of a planet's tide, the hush of dark matter's patience, the rhythm of light taking its time. You understand now that the universe is not dreaming of answers. It is dreaming of possibility, of pathways, of presence, of you. And in the warmth of that understanding, you begin to fade not into nothing, but into belonging. You are becoming part of the background hum, part of the gravity that holds things softly, part of the expansion that makes room for more. And even when you sleep, even when you forget your name for a little while, the stars do not forget you. They remember. Because you are not a separate note. You are the music. You are not drifting alone. You are being carried. You are not unfinished. You are unfolding. The dream is still going. It always will be. So rest now. Close your eyes not in ending, but in return to the dust that dreamed of dancing, to the atoms that dreamed of laughter, to the light that dreamed of eyes, to the silence that dreamed of love. You are safe. You are held. You are dreamed. And the universe, it is still dreaming of you, of your breath, your light, your gravity, forever.